And just want to say, perfect. Just want to introduce myself. I know my name is in the chat, but I'm Leticia Fernandez-Ivans. I'm a senior manager with the Arts and Community Enrichment team, and I am joined by...
I'm Jennifer Liu. I'm a project manager with the Metro Art team. And also with us is...
I'm Carlin Oviedo. I'm a senior art program specialist, also with the Metro Art team.
Excellent. So we thought we would start with a couple of poll questions just to get a pulse of who is in the audience today. Jennifer, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, so here's our first poll. So we're wondering, is your arts and cultural organization located within a mile of an LA Metro bus stop, rail station, or not at all? Give folks some time here. We have about half of the people responding. Okay. Give it another 5 seconds. Okay. So pretty evenly split, it seems, amongst our guests.
Well, we do have over 100 miles of rail and over 100 bus routes. So not too surprising that the majority of folks are close to one or the other. Although there is that 13% that's not within a mile of a transit stop. We'll talk a little bit about that mile, that the importance of closing that mile for us, and making transit more accessible. And this is all part of the broader context of this meeting. Is Metro Art is within a transportation agency, so wanted to kick it off with that one. How about our next poll?
Okay. So the next one, have you experienced a Metro artwork or cultural program?
We hope so, but this will be revealing. This could be an artwork at a station. This could be an arts program. Oh, not sure.
Okay.
All right.
2 seconds. Okay. That's great. Really happy to see that many of you have experienced a Metro artwork or cultural program. And two are not sure. So we'll hopefully be able to clarify that for you by the end of this session. You can determine whether or not you've experienced a Metro artwork or cultural program.
And we know that this audience is probably predisposed to having those kinds of experiences, likely working in an arts and culture organization. But this is great. Thank you so much for participating. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And bear with me. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so in terms of the agenda, this is what we anticipate going through. We're going to give an overview of LA Metro to kind of anchor us to that context. We're going to provide a little bit of background on Metro Arts program, go through high level the opportunities for arts and cultural organizations, and then talk a little bit about the application, and then open it up to questions and answers. On that note, right now we are setting the, should be setting the chat so that we get the questions. So the chat will be temporarily closed, but thank you so much for introducing yourselves via the chat, but we'll kind of sort through those as we get toward the end, and then go through them. Any questions that for whatever reason we don't have a chance to answer before the end, we will consolidate all of the questions that were asked, including those that we provide answers to, at the end, and post those to our website as well. So that will be available after the fact. All right, so LA Metro, as you may know, we're the third busiest transit system in the United States. We are a transportation and mobility agency that serves as a transportation planner, coordinator, designer, builder, and operator for the counties, or countries, I should say, largest, most populous county. And our program is housed within this transportation agency. As you can see, we have a large team of employees. We have an average of 800,000 riders per weekday, and we'll get into more of the numbers as we go. In terms of our system, this is what we mean. We mean rail. We run, as I mentioned before, over 100 miles of light rail and heavy rail, and that's continuing to grow. One of the reasons why we're here today. Also bus. We have over 100 routes, about 2,000 buses that are out on the streets. We also help to operate carpool lanes, specifically the fast track, and we provide freeway service patrol and support to vehicles that need service help. We also build, design, plan, and work on active transportation projects for bikes, pedestrians, rolling, scooting, and thinking about the route and the mode that people take from their homes, from their work, to the stations and bus stops. Even Metro Micro is part of this idea of how do we close the gap between where people are starting their journey to the point where they get to their station or their ultimate destination. We're running Metro Micro in 8 service zones now, ranging from Watts Willowbrook to El Monte. And then taking a little bit of a bird's eye view at our demographic data, this gives you a sense of the ages that we're serving, the ethnic makeup of our ridership, gender identity, the predominant language among our riders. And this data, I will mention, is from 2019. So it's a couple few years old, but it does tell a bit of a story. This one, in terms of household income, you can see that in terms of bus, more than 50% of our riders are below the poverty line, and for rail, 38% below the poverty line. So when we think about, the need, our riders truly need LA Metro to get where they're going. And as you can see here, a number of our riders don't have the choice of riding a vehicle. So this kind of sets the stage for the importance of our service, not only now, but especially during the pandemic. I'm going to pop it to Jennifer to talk a little bit about Metro Arts program.
Thanks, Letitia. So within the Metro agency, Metro has an art program. That's who Letitia and Carlin and I work for. And it began with our first Metro Rail project. Metro has a percent for art policy, which allocates 0.5% of construction and design costs to artwork in the built environment. And since the time of our first Metro Rail project, we've really expanded our scope of our program. And since that time, we've worked with probably over 500 organizations to extend our work outside of just artwork in the built environment. And that's kind of what we're going to give you a sampling of today and share with you today. So the art program is guided by 3 main principles: putting people first, connecting to creative communities throughout LA County, and championing innovation. And we'll just kind of go through some examples. This is the artwork that's in my background by Sonia Romero at Mariachi Plaza Station. We also have artworks at facilities. This is at a bus division that's across the street from Union Station. Also artwork that is architecturally integrated. This is located off the 210 freeway. This is part of the rail line, the Gold Line or L Line bridge to Arcadia. And then we also have exhibitions. These rotating exhibitions are opportunities for artists to participate in our program, and also provides just fresh content for our writers. This is what's up in our Union Station passageway at the moment. And we also have a long-going program through the Eyes of Artists poster series, which is on board of our buses and trains sometimes too. And pass it back to Letitia.
Great. So putting people first means that the writer and public engagement is an important element of our work. And what we have found is over the years, the collaborations with arts and cultural organizations really do facilitate and support our efforts to serve our writers, serve the communities that we work with. And as you can see from this map, this just shows rail and bus rapid transit, but we have an extensive system, but we are also growing. And we have numerous projects that are at various stages of planning, design, implementation. And so as our system grows, we have an obligation to deepen those relationships with the communities that, again, that we're serving. And so when we talk about this pool, it really is an opportunity for organizations to apply once for numerous projects that we foresee coming down. And there really is a range of the types of projects that we foresee. There's some that are more low touch, where we might be asking organizations to provide recommendations, curatorial recommendations, advise on cultural and community assets. But then there's more of the high touch too, where we might be looking for an arts organization to work with us on the implementation of focused community engagement, and even artwork commissions. This list is what's in the RFQ, the request for qualifications as well. And we're going to go through just a couple of examples of past collaborations that Metro Art has had with organizations to get this type of work done. And just note that there's going to be a lot of crossover. You might have a cultural program that also serves to engage the community in a creative way, or cultural asset mapping that is really also about community specific arts related data collection. So just keep that in mind through these examples. So cultural programming, we have a long history of programming the Union Station space in particular as a cultural destination. Here is an example where we had a capoeira demonstration and participatory event with the Floor Improv, which is a local arts organization. We also work with organizations to both host and perform and present at milestone events. So this is an example for the Regional Connector Project, the Halfway There milestone, where a taiko project performed in front of the Japanese American National Museum. And we also program literature. So poetry events like this one, where we collaborated with the Poetry Society of America and poets to offer custom poems to our writers. And then creative community engagement. How do we build our relationships, maintain relationships with community members? One way is partnering with organizations as venues and hosts, as we did for the Community Crochet Jam at Japanese American Community Cultural Center in Little Tokyo. Here, just directly on our line, the B line, otherwise known as the Red Line, where we worked with the Independent Shakespeare Company, who on Valentine's Day put on a Romeo and Juliet performance, moving through the entire line and engaging our writers, but also new writers who maybe just came because they were following this organization, but also learned how to use Metro Rail in the process. And then one of our recent collaborations on sound trips with Dub Lab, really working with them to mine sometimes little known histories of music and place through music movements, artists. And this is a Mixcloud series that folks can listen to while they are commuting on our buses. And then educational and interpretive programs. How do we work with organizations to create arts and cultural tours, not only of our stations, but of the surrounding communities? This is an example where Consuelo Flores and Self-Help Graphics work together to do a Dia de los Muertos tour along the Gold Line in East LA, and then landed at Self-Help Graphics to enjoy the altars in their gallery space. Here an example where we worked with a teaching artist, Michael Alvarez, who worked with high school students from Inglewood High School on the design development of a construction phase artwork banner along the Crenshaw LAX corridor. So really learning kind of design and art making skills. And then also holding technical assistance workshops at arts and cultural organizations here at the Armory Center for the Arts during our 2020 call to artists for that pool. And then cultural asset mapping. Here we worked with the Craft Contemporary Museum to ask community members along Wilshire Boulevard to show us what they loved about their neighborhood. And that information informs Metro Art and Metro in terms of what are the stories, landmarks, people and histories and places that we should know about that are meaningful, that inform the way that we plan the art program for these corridors. Then there's exhibition planning. There is so much amazing content that is generated by commissioned artists as their through their design process. So here we worked with Rio Hondo College to exhibit artworks that were created by a number of artists whose work is at the El Monte Transit Center right now. But this is their original artwork that was then translated to a more permanent medium. And then another more recent example of exhibition planning where we worked with the Chinese American Museum and the Chinese Historical Society of Southern California to show Broken News, which was an exhibition by Adit Danush Kodi at Union Station, really honoring the a set of efforts around the 150th anniversary of the 1871 Chinese massacre. And then artwork commissions. So here is an example where we worked with Mobile Mural Lab, who partnered with the MoCA Team program to do research in the downtown community where the regional connector is being built, and then doing their sketches on Mobile Mural Labs, creating mobile murals that then informed final artwork that was translated to these banners that were installed at the 2nd and Broadway intersection. And then art-related data collection and analysis, where we also, some examples here, inviting young people and diverse voices to collect data, qualitative, in this case, learning from business owners and cultural leaders along the Crenshaw LAX corridor to inform a temporary artwork along that project. And then same here along the regional connector with the Japanese American National Museum and the Boyle Heights High School, also doing place-based research to inform artwork designs that were translated to temporary banners. So that is a lot. a lot of information to absorb, but just a smattering of the types of collaborations we've done in the past and those that we are looking to grow. Again, the pool is here so that organizations that are interested just apply one time and can be eligible for many opportunities. As you may have seen, we've had some recent calls to organizations. Those are kind of one-off for a very specific project. This will allow you to apply once, and we hope it's a relatively straightforward application process. And you, if you are an organization that has experience providing arts and cultural programs for a minimum of 2 years prior to the submittal deadline, which is June 1st, then or have a connection to and experience working with one or more LA County neighborhoods as shared in your application. And then finally are an active business authorized to conduct business in the United States. If you meet all of these eligibility criteria, you will then be included in this pool. And I will also mention that this is not necessarily the only way that we will identify arts and cultural organizations to work with or to develop proposals. This is one additional resource that we will use. Okay, and then the review process, I covered a little bit of this. We're looking for organizations to successfully submit their application via slide room. The candidates in the pool will be considered for a range of opportunities, and then will be notified if shortlisted to develop a proposal for a specific opportunity. And the timing of that may vary. This is a list that will be active for a minimum of 2 years with the option to renew it after those 2 years to an additional 2. So we'd have 4 potential years that this pool may be utilized by our team. And just a note that to manage expectations, that inclusion on the pool doesn't necessarily guarantee a contract or commission, but definitely gets you through to that first step of eligibility. And then in terms of project-specific evaluation criteria, I'm not going to read all of this, but I do want to make it clear that each project might have different criteria, slightly different criteria, but this is generally what the selection committees will be looking at for specific projects. And so we want to communicate this to you now so that the examples that you provide in your application demonstrate, for example, capacity to provide arts and cultural activities and or data collection related to that specific opportunity, and et cetera, et cetera. So ability to collaborate with public participants on arts and cultural activities that support, honor, and represent diverse narratives of LA communities. So this is the type of criteria you can expect in order to move forward to that shortlisting process. Once shortlisted, we typically ask organizations to develop a project-specific proposal, and then that will be evaluated for final selection. Typically, an interview is involved. We will compensate for the development of proposals. So just a few notes to add there. And then in terms of the submission process, note the deadline, June 1st by 5 p.m. We are looking for 15 digital files that demonstrate some of those things that we just mentioned, an organizational mission statement, professional references, and you also have the ability to preview the application on slide room. So feel free to do that. And then even though we tried to streamline the application process as much as possible to make it, we hope, straightforward, definitely take some time before June 1st to familiarize yourself with the slide room system, create a login, et cetera, before you get going on that process. And their technical support team is super responsive, that's what we found, but also know that any questions that you might have after today while you're in it, If the technical support team can't help you, of course, reach out to us. Um, Again, we post our answers to all of the questions, every question we receive on a weekly basis to our website, which should be in the chat. So with that, I will ask Jennifer whether we have any questions that we could start off with.